G'day friends and fans, welcome to Dave Talks Stuff Ukraine War Update for the 12th of May 2026. The ceasefire is over, the war resumes, and the scandals in Ukraine grow. Now, as we look around the map, there is no marking to indicate the resumption of hostilities by Russia because Ukraine claimed a massive strike, 200 drones. I would say that was business as usual. Massive strike, that's over 300. Now, of course, there have been conflicts throughout the ceasefire because Ukraine, the map's updated, so some of the squares are updated. All right, so yeah, there's more conflicts along the buffer zone here in the north. There's resumptions of the Kupiansk offensive, although not really you can tell because the markers don't indicate who started the fight, when the fight started, how long it's been going for, etc. But the fight in Lyman and Kupiansk, the Russians have switched from defensive to offensive actions, and you can tell in areas like this where there are multiple actions and the markers go beyond the border. So, as I've said, Krasnoyarsk is one of their primary targets, as well as Lyman. Though I think Lyman and Kupiansk are more holding actions, while they, depending on the advantage or disadvantage perceived by the Russian military commanders, who appear to agree that they will not increase the manpower against Krasnoyarsk, instead use it as a grind, use Lyman as a grind, while they advance in other areas. Now, they've advanced north of Runinsky, but not by much. But as you can see there, they have a little bit. Now, it appears they're widening their front against Benetch while attacking... trying to pronounce it right. While they attack here as well. And as you can see, a lot of attacks and a lot of defensive actions. And there's a lot of attacks across the front. A little bit of advancing here. A little bit of clashes here and there. And clashes in Zhenizhi, which Russia has taken a good chunk of here in the south. But the main quarter or half is still in Ukrainian hands. They've taken some of this town. They have advanced a little bit, but not much. And again, they're creeping up on Orlev. But again, the problem is it's big open ground. And yeah, this is only to bring up big guns, of course. But they rarely use them. And they use them in rare exchanges. Now, of course... that is because Russia is on a strict budget, where Ukraine is just blowing everything and expecting. Remember the ammunition shortage? Well, somehow Austria managed to find 22 billion in arms from somewhere. Wonder who they bought it off. China, India, Pakistan. Well, Pakistan's a reseller of Chinese arms. But, yeah. Oh, remember that purchase of ammunition from Sudan. That was actually Chinese ammunition out of Cuba and Venezuela. Of course, Cuba buys is a reseller of ammunition. They get a lot of it, cheap, from its allies, and they resell it on the global market as in their sanction busting. Because it's not made in Cuba and it never lands in Cuba. They have buying agents around the world. A lot of sanction-busting countries do that. That's why recently there was a couple of sanctioned individuals who went to court in Europe and were taken off the sanctions list after they proved they were no longer engaged in those activities, that they were retired. But of course they maintain they are monitored to make sure they don't return to their previous occupations. But this is the accusation against the so-called merchant of death or Lord of War in a Russian businessman was engaged in occasionally making business deals for third parties, not for himself. He was only paid commissions. But a lot of businessmen do that. I forget his name. A couple of big YouTubers do it as well. They actually go out and resell other people's products for a commission or a referral fee. And there are a lot of arms dealers who never touch or even ship arms. They merely are good at arranging demonstrations. And we've seen in Ukraine the laser. Trust me when I say you don't want to buy a laser weapon in 2025, 2026. 2024 you would have bought one cheap just for the sci-fi novelty, but you don't want to buy one as a legitimate battlefield weapon. Ukraine is deluding itself. These micro lasers, they consume way more power, right? They're not 10 watts. That's their output. Okay, they need more than 10 watts. It's like a light bulb. A 10 watt light bulb doesn't use 10 watts of power. It consumes 10 watts of power per second. So a 10 watt laser? You got 10 watt light bulbs. 10 watt lasers, what are they going to do? Therefore, they are not weapons. Okay, the majority of these so-called laser weapon drones are in fact laser targeters. Okay, the output of a laser, I forget exactly what it has to be. I think it is pretty high in order to create 40 degrees or more temperature. If you concentrate, that's only a burn. Right? It takes a lot of burns to kill a person, and it's an unfortunate death, and it's a very painful death. But these big lasers, even these big giga weapons, they take 6 seconds to kill a drone. And Russia is now creating algorithms to get the drone to maneuver and deflect or roll or change direction. Because if they can offset the heat long enough, the ground laser overheats or the drone gets out of range by changing course. Now, I don't know how powerful this algorithm is. I don't know how fast it is. Apparently it runs on 4 nanometer chips because Russia can't get any better or faster right for now. But if you have AI chips, well, we'll see them on the battlefield. So, I mean, if Russia has AI chips, we'll see them on the battlefield soon. But we know the US has, and has restricted their use. Why? Because they know China and Russia are developing theirs, and by putting debris on the battlefield, they are increasing the likelihood of increasing the chances Russia and China leap ahead, because they are the biggest. China's the biggest buyer of battlefield debris. Recently, they bought a unexploded ordnance in Iraq, and while digging it up, the 13 Iraqis and 40 Chinese were incinerated when the bomb went off. Yeah, unexploded ordnance. Who knew that it would explode when you took the... Because they tried to freeze the fuse or something. You know, the fuse was damaged, and they tried to freeze the fuse, and the bomb went live. Well, the bomb was on the verge of exploding. By interfering with it, they just triggered the tamper device and went hasta la vista, baby. But who knows? Maybe anecdotal stories like that will not stop people from being stupid. And right now in Iran, they're trying to dig up unexploded ordnance to study, and they're finding the same fate. But Iran is claiming 3 of the 4 bunker busters did not go off. The US has denied this, and we're seeing this also in Ukraine. Apparently, a lot of Ukrainian missiles, they don't do much damage. And a lot of the Russian drones, again, they only set fires. Some spread, some get put out quickly. We're now the propaganda phase of the war, where a lot of people are now going to settle in and believe what they're going to believe, no matter what. A closed mind is a dangerous mind, because things can change. Zelensky may not be there tomorrow. You never know what is going to happen, so you should never think. I mean, remember, the Germans didn't go into World War II telling its population what it's going to do. No, we're going to liberate. We're going to fight the Bolsheviks. We're going to save Germany from the Bolsheviks. And those damn Poles, they're siding with the Bolsheviks. And the Bolsheviks were going, those damn Poles are siding with the Germans. So they never go in, right? Ukraine, we're the victims. Even though Ukraine was fighting ethnic Russians for years, long before Russia invaded. So, how can anyone believe Ukraine is a victim? Russia's bigger, so therefore it's the meanie. Your politics are based on children's books. But there's, of course, a silver lining to all. And that is, hopefully, people will learn. We can only hope. Now, my channel is sponsored by you, the reading audience, not the Ukrainian government, like those big channels with, their little with their little news snippets out of Ukraine, all neatly translated and immediately rushing to air the moment they get them. No, I'm a genuine YouTuber who is not beholden or given special treatment by any government. So, yes, I'm sponsored by you, the viewing audience. And one of the ways you can support the channel is to buy my merch. Empire of Elves, one word, empireofelves.myshopify.com. Coffee cups, lattes, drink bottles, tumblers, posters, bags, more to come. Appreciate the support. Thank you. Now, Russia's latest long-range UAV, again, this was announced yesterday, big trade deal, but they didn't say with whom. I believe it was actually Saudi Arabia, but it also could have been the UAE. There's been a couple of big Middle Eastern purchases of Russian long-range drones. America has said nothing. They have extended the trade license to the 25th, allowing the purchases of Russian equipment, limited Russian equipment. So a lot of the Arabs are buying drones and stocking up in anticipation that Iran will soon resume attacks, or America will attack Iran, because Iran is not abiding by the sanctions, or a ceasefire. They're trying to bring rocket fuel over land out of Pakistan. But they are having problems because one of the bridges collapsed and they have to go the long way around, and they may have to, But they are trying to come around Pakistan, and they may actually have to go for Afghanistan, which leads to even more problems. But they've actually had trucks attacked, because they're Chinese trucks, attacked by the separatists in Pakistan, in the tribal areas. So a lot of world conflicts are building, not de-escalating. Now, Iran, for years, has bought a lot of these drones, but they have the older models, and they have a lot of drone factories. That's what I was thinking of. Drone factories with the Shahed. But most have been bombed completely out. But some, I've seen the satellite photos. I forget that company in California published them recently. They don't publish during conflict, but they did show some of the drone strikes on. Now, I'm not saying they were all successful. It's like anything in war. You're not going to know the success until well after the war of exactly all the operations. Some turn out to be complete disasters. Now, this drone in particular is a long-range drone. It's based on the Global Hawk, which was actually based on a aircraft, I believe, built in the early days of the air era. One of the first monowings, great big gossamer wings, I think. But Howard Hughes is one of the many different aircraft. But it's a very basic pencil design. And yeah, the Germans used it as, yes, the pencil bomber. They built very big versions of this. It was actually the Germans who came up with radio control, by the way, and surface-to-air missiles, which were radio controlled. They are lethal long-range drones. They can be armed, and a lot of these illustrations may appear familiar. This is the you've heard of shopping from Temu? Well, there was actually going to be shopping from Ivan, but the Russian what's it called? Forget the name. The Russian e-commerce site, I forget, never really took off. I believe it's the same guy who was behind Facebook. Oh, you think Facebook was Mark Zuckerberg? No. Mark Zuckerberg was the front for $250 million of Russian money. Yeah. So, yeah. If you went out and watched the movie For Zuckerberg, by Zuckerberg, and believed that's how social media was born, you're a Zucker, which means sugar, by the way. Zuckerberg means Sugar Mountain. It's a made-up name to protect war criminals. You look it up if you want. 1813. Bunch of Weimar Republic criminals changed their name to Zuckerberg and moved to America. So, showing the ordnance, just because they got a big spike on their nose doesn't mean anything. It's just, yeah. It appears it has a refueling hatch and command uplink and a top drone, which means I believe this is an attachment for air launch. And yeah, and electronic. Well, and it has the so I forget why some aircraft have two data links. But yeah, there's the standard gimbal, which has been pretty much universal now for years, all the way back to the 70s. Now, there are different sleek versions of variations of this. And international arms shows in Russia are not very popular anymore, as you can tell. Alright, so you've got variations of the drones, and they do actually have probably 2 data links for ground and satellite relay, and to counter electronic warfare. But they do have pilot and co-pilot as well. They do have a pilot who and they have may even have a third for weapons, but they also have, as you can see, someone's going to control that gimbal, and now those I believe are air quality or nuclear detections. They are sampling. One of the ways Russia and other countries tell if someone's violating treaties is the radiation output from reactors. If you're enriching uranium, you're going to be using more electricity than you're generating, and you're going to be putting out a lot more radiation. Now, a lot of forgotten war is not very. One of the many forgotten facts is war is not very environmentally friendly. Yet the left love their wars as long as they're not forced to fight them. Now they do look like strands of hair from an old person, but they're in fact fiber optics, and fiber optic cables are not very environmentally friendly. Neither Russia nor Ukraine is going to stop. Both sides have launched, allegedly in the last month alone, over 100,000 fiber optic controlled drones. These are silicon, 0.2 to 0.5 millimeters thick. They have a polymer sheath designed to be stronger and durable, and they do not immediately decompose or rust, but they do also poison the soil for quite some time. Now, farmers can actually find their equipment ruined by fiber optics and their soil poisoned. Now, they're claiming both sides use them, and both sides have spooled out cables up to 10 kilometers long. That's a lot of fiber optics now covering former Ukrainian territory and Ukrainian territory. These accumulate, these abandoned wires found settled in soil, hanging from trees. There was recently an accident in which a Ukrainian dispatch driver was actually decapitated by running into a fiber optic wire from their own side's drone, flying low. There was incidences on the Russian side of injuries as well. Both sides have had reported injuries, but there's only been one reported death from fiber optics. But the number of drones increasingly, there's going to be, they can no longer cover it up, and it will go well beyond Telegram, and may even make the mainstream news on BBC, in that the spike in fiber optic prices is due to the fact that China selling selling large spools of it to Russia, but Ukraine is also buying large spools of fiber optics. Now, it's more a mechanical threat. Now, there is painful examples of its impact on animal and birds, mostly cuts, but they get wrapped up in wire they cannot break. But there's increasingly, with ground drones, you're finding every day, and it's also impeding their own war effort in that they start having these rivers of fiber optics. So they're having both air and ground operations interfered with, because you can't go anywhere. You can't have air operations anywhere near fiber optic drones, because any resistance to aircraft movement immediately reverberates throughout the aircraft. Remember, force and impact combines. So anything that it can't immediately crush, fiber optics being one of them, can actually cause a lot of trouble for aircraft. Now, this is a pile of fiber optic cable on the roadside in Kostrakovia. These are drones, probably from both sides, because one of the other things is, once you use fiber optics long enough, you give away your position to the Russians. And it's the same with the Russians. You give away your position to the Ukrainians. They see your fiber optics and they have a trail back to you. They may be tiny, but they add up, right? And they start to glisten in the sun. But look how many fiber optics there are there. There's dozens of strands, all intertwined with dozens of strands from months of fighting. And there you see the standard fiber optic drone. They printed and stamped out in Ukraine. Russia has similar. Everyone's getting to the point of similarities. Glass cobwebs. They are, well, technically a glass. Silicon is processed into a glass. That's what glass is, right? Silicon melted like sugar into a single crystal. That's glass. Polymer coat, your standard plastic. And as the polymer coat wears down, that glass becomes a deadly cutting implement. Now, Zelensky's former chief of staff has been formally charged by the National Anti-Corruption Bureau with investigations from the Specialised Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office, filing the charges. The Bureau does the investigations. The Prosecutor's Office does the prosecution. They keep the two separate. Now, a criminal group involved in the laundering of 10.5 million. I believe it's from black marketeering, but it could be stolen funds. It's hard to know, but he used his position to buy luxury housing. Well, he bought it in Ukraine. Yeah, because Switzerland banned transfers under pressure from Europe. But, Andrei Vermek, what a shock. Andrei, as soon as he became a challenger to Vladimir Zelensky, he was under investigation. They're using this to get rid of political enemies, but unfortunately, Yemek may actually be guilty of engaged in black marketeering and criminal activity, but with Zelensky. But Zelensky is able to skate on thin ice. The investigation finds nothing. I mean, it's almost like Zelensky, the mafia don, has enough people who will stay silent as intermediaries. But he's refused comment, pressure to release other names. He's under pressure because they want the tapes verified against Timur Minik and third parties. They want to know the names of the other people involved. And, of course, well, there are Zelensky's, but there's also, Volva is believed to be Zelensky, and Andrei is believed to be Yemek. Yeah. See, Zelensky has covered himself better than most. Now, allegedly, Russia has blown up some of Zelensky's mansions. So, we don't know if that is true or not. But Zelensky's not a happy man after the last Russian air attack. And he's gone on a fuming tirade. Pretty much, if you want to know what it looked like, go see Downfall. I'm not going to play it. He's promising to rain trouble down on, to rain trouble down on Moscow. They will regret it. But the allegation is that press secretary gave an interview with RT confirming Zelensky's corruptions. Her allegations is that Yemik is a middleman, influence peddler. They were involved in money laundering. These long-time business partners were also all involved in the same corruption. This is the laundering money from energy sector kickbacks and money and bribes paid. Tucker Carlson actually mentioned this, and Russia's, just reached out and reporting on it. But yeah, now I know Tucker Carlson's chief of staff is a new criminal case. Zelensky's out there selling Russian missiles. I've seen Ukrainian missiles made with Russian technology. Some of them World War II designs. They are, however, increasingly irrelevant. Russia's just showed off yesterday its new S-500 variant, which is entering service. Now you might say, wait, the S-500 is in service. Yeah, limited service. They are entering a new phase of the S-500 program. It seems I can now play you some of these clips. Previously, as you may have noticed, and some do show recently. Where is it? But they would show as white, and yeah, a lot of these wouldn't show either, but they're showing, and you can see there's a lot of activity in the last 24 hours. So in the last 12, really. But a short time ago, formal combat operations resumed. So Russia has moved from defensive to offensive operations. So I can actually play you some war videos now, so you know what's really going on. So you know what it's really like for the poor people on both sides who suffer the indulgences of the ruling class. Now, if you believe Russia's under an offensive or defensive war, that's up to you. But the idea of European invincibility is being challenged merely on the propaganda side to show you that a large tank force out of Europe is not going to keep you safe. It's not going to stop the bad guy. What's going to stop the bad guy is you stop bringing in every Tom, Dick and Harry because you want bigger and better and you want to feel powerful. Yeah, instead of... And women, I don't want to have children. There's plenty of other children in the world. All these moron mentality of liberalisms are the problem. Fix your own country and you're not likely to have a war. Look at all the peaceful, prosperous countries that aren't engaged in troublemaking. Not many, right? But still. Look at Argentina. Yeah, I know, it's a bad example. Everybody's been involved in something. For a minute I thought it wasn't going to play. It took its time. Oh, it's going to load again? Alright. As you can see, it's a quadcopter with a contact fuse. Looks like a belt buckle. They started recording early, didn't they? Guess to show you from how far, and I'm not going to say how far they're detecting from, but the average is they can detect a tank on radar, ground radar, anywhere from 1.4 to 3 kilometres, give or take the terrain. So it's close to the front line. Now, they hit the front of the tank and exploded with a lot of fire, and the heat is sufficient enough to start cooking the ammunition and the oil in the diesel engine, and the fire is spreading. The driver is probably concussed. The crew is trapped. What a horrible, unfortunate death for those poor men. And I know many people say, oh, Putin has to deal with stop the war. You think Zelensky's going to stop attacking Russia? They didn't. Within an hour of the ceasefire, Zelensky announced the ceasefire, and within an hour of his own ceasefire, he launched flamingos at a Russian oil depot. Ukraine is not going to stop fighting because they keep getting cheered on by the belligerent left who want to be the resistance, destroy Putin. Why? Because he stood up to the World Bank and refused to submit the Russian Central Bank to foreign control of the WEF, like all the other central banks. So that's the state of the war. And before you say, oh, the bankers were, yeah, the WEF, however, is the liberal establishment. Thank you all for watching. I really appreciate each and every one of you. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Support the channel in a number of ways. In addition to my Shopify, there's Ko-Fi, Patreon, Buy My Books, and of course, all my link, including my Shopify links, are in the link tree. Description below, in my profiles. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. See you in the next video. Bye for now.